Hi, it's the day after our 25th wedding anniversary, and we're here in San Gregorio de Polanco, which is a very small town, smaller than we expected, on a lake which is different than we expected. It's a man-made lake, so it's sort of like Hag Lake in a way. Very flat terrain, very peaceful lake, but a very lovely little sand beach here with a lot of pine trees for shade. Nobody's here. We had our hotel almost to ourselves, and it's very peaceful and beautiful and good place to come.
We drove up and we started seeing, first of course we see the standard soy and corn and huge fields and massive combines, and then that sort of dispersed into a little bit drier, and then we started seeing huge herds of cows and some ostrich and some sheep, and then we got to Durazno, which is a very cool little town, actually a pretty big town. I think it's probably number 3 or 4 in Uruguay, and tree-lined streets, and had, of course, Chivito. Next to one of the squares, there's lots and lots of plazas, beautiful. And then we spent about an hour trying to get out of Durazno, which actually was bigger than I initially said, so that's why it took longer, because I wasn't navigating, I'm just driving. Somebody had a hard time with navigating. And then we drove to here. So last night, your mom, we bought a bottle of champagne. We went back to our room, which was nice, no bugs. It's very nice. And we drank our bottle of champagne on the balcony, looking over the beautiful lake. And then we took a nap, and then your mom woke up about 8:30 and said, "Oh, I don't know if I want to go out for dinner. I don't think anything's going to be open. Why don't we just sit in the room?" And I was like, "No, we got to go out. This is our anniversary. Darn it, we're going to go out." And it's a small town, but so we drove around and we saw.
Whoa, wait. Good thing we went, because Tom had left the lights on in the car, and if we hadn't noticed it, the car would have been dead this morning.
Right, so it's a great thing that I said, yes, we're going to go, because
you left the lights on.
Right, because I left the lights on. So somebody's looking out. Thank you very much. So we went out and we found this very cool little corner place where I went in and asked him if they had a menu. He said no. And I said, "What do you have?" And he kind of turned around, he looked at his parrilla, and he said, "This." And I said, "Okay, I'll take the chicken, I'll take the chorizo, and I'll take an asado. And do you have salad?" And we got a very nice tomato and onion salad. And what else we have? We had some wine. And then we sat out on the street and watched people go back and forth on their scooters and stuff. And your mom fed a cat and I fed a dog. And that was our night.
And then we had figs.
Oh, yeah. We asked what desserts they had, and they said they have figs. So we had some like sweetened figs, and they were wonderful. So it was a wonderful way to spend our 25th wedding anniversary. And it could only have been more wonderful if you had been there. But you weren't. So there. But you weren't there at the first one either, so I guess it's appropriate.
Maybe we'll invite you guys to the 50th.
Okay, yeah, 50th, we'll see it. No, you guys have to do something for us.
Oh, right, that's how it works.
All right. See you later, kids. Thanks for listening.